I just watched Freaks, which is a 1932 film, which is apparently a horror. I mean, I guess it kind of it does kind of fit that. It's very horrifying, certainly, but a lot of the horror stuff was cut out because this film was originally a standard sort of 90 minutes, and it was censored a lot because it's a pre-code film, so we kind of think of films as getting more and more as the years progress. You're allowed to show more stuff. You're allowed to be more graphic with and more horrifying. And when you think of old films, like there's barely even swearing in them. It used to be in American films you weren't even allowed to swear, and so this was before they put all those censorship things in. Back when films were still relatively new, and so you could just do anything. So this film was incredibly shocking. Apparently now there's only 62 minutes which are available. It's absolutely impossible to watch the original cut. We've kind of heard about what was in it. Apparently it's just more at the end, so I'm not going to go into it too much, but it's like the stuff which happens, but it's all off screen at the end. Apparently they showed it. This is only a 12 certificate in the UK. I mean, I guess that maybe makes it a PG-13 in the US. So it's crazy how attitudes have changed towards horror. So I feel like the unrated version would probably be maybe a 15. I don't think it'd be any higher. And yet back then it was banned in the UK for 30 years. It was banned in. It was banned all over the world. Like, they had to cut loads of stuff, and it was X-rated, or it was like impossible to see. So the tagline of this film is, "Can a full-grown woman truly love a midget?" It's basically just a kind of day in the life. There's not that much plot to it. I mean, it progresses a bit, but it's just about a troupe of circus performers, like freaks, as it were. There's quite a few romances going on. There's like a love triangle between a dwarf and another dwarf lady and a fully grown woman, which is what the tagline's about, and that's probably the main storyline, I'd say. Although it's a bit weird because Harry Earls, who plays Hans, who's the dwarf, his sort of love triangle with the other dwarf, Frida, is played by their brother and sister in real life. Well, they're dead now. I mean, everyone involved in this is dead. But yeah, Harry Earls and Daisy Earls play like kind of a couple. It's a bit weird, really, a bit creepy. But anyway, so I did this as a part of a double feature with The Greatest Showman. That was the previous review on this channel, and I'd recommend you watch that after if you haven't, or if you come from there, then hello, thank you for jumping over. They're similar films in that it's about a circus troupe of like freak, as it were, performers, but that's very glorified, and it glosses over all of the horrible stuff. This sort of almost glosses over the positives. It's just the really horrible stuff. And so, and as I said, it was a romance. There's that. There's also the bearded lady and the skeletal man have a romance, and there's a few stuff going on. But whereas The Greatest Showman doesn't have any real apart from there's a dwarf in that, everyone else is just a regular able-bodied person, normally quite an attractive sort of Hollywood-looking person who they've just put some fake hair on. Or the Siamese twins in I say Siamese twins rather than conjoined twins, because they actually, in The Great Showman, they are Ang and Chang, who are where Siamese twins comes from, because they were Siamese. But conjoined twins, in The Great Showman, they are just two blokes standing next to each other. In fact, I don't even think they're related. I think they're just two random guys, even though conjoined twins have to be identical twins. But yeah, I mean, you can see there's a bit where they're dancing, and I noticed that their costumes weren't even conjoined. It looked like you could see in between them. They just got their arms around each other. So whereas that's all fake. This is every actor in this, like all of the freaks of this are completely real, and so that's why people thought it was really shocking, and why I think they kind of sold it as just a freak show. Like, you go there to point and laugh at them, and then it turns out that it's actually very sympathetic towards them, and you're supposed to leave it being like, okay, they're humans too. It's very anti-eugenic, you know. It's these people are equal. They are. We shouldn't be laughing at them. We shouldn't be. They are. And I really respect how they actually do have these. They're proper actors in this film. It's not The Great Showman where we see Hugh Jackman as the lead, and we need to see Zac Efron of the freak ensemble in The Great Showman. Zendaya, who's like a model and everything, is the one we see the most. And then the bearded lady is like a really talented singer. She's got a really perfect combed beard that looks really fake, and it's this is proper. Like, this is real, and it's shocking. And it's directed by Todd Browning, who's most famous for doing the Bela Lugosi Dracula film. And so yeah, people at the time were so shocked by it. It got loads of complaints. People were apparently fainting in cinemas. People weren't just leaving, they were like running out. And one woman tried to sue MGM because she claimed that this was so traumatic that it made her have a miscarriage. I'll go through some of the freaks they have. I mean, there's a real bearded lady, not like The Great Showman's one. There's armless girl. There's a human skeleton. There's the living torso. There's a bit of the living torso at the end where it's like they're all of the group of them are doing something, and it's like human torso. You can probably sit this one out. Let everyone else take part. Anyway, yeah, there's half woman, half man as well, who's supposedly a hermaphrodite, but I don't think it was ever actually proven. There's half boy, who's just someone who's only got the top half of his body. He's not got any legs or anything. And then there's also, it does some really good things with, apparently it's like kind of allegory for the Great Depression, which was happening at the time, where there's also some able-bodied acts. There's like trapeze artists and strongman. And it's showing like the kind of, that's meant to be the class divide, so it's meant to be the really rich people. And in the sort of allegory for the Great Depression are the able-bodied people, and then the freaks, as it were, are the poor who were really suffering. And in a way, they're the more human of the two groups. Even as a film itself, I mean, outside talking about all that sort of stuff, like, is it okay, is it not? And I'm more of the camp of like, yes, it is for this than I am for Great Showman, I would say. But I think they're both probably all right. But it definitely starts a debate. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to draw a conclusion, but as a film itself, I think it's good. I mean, I think sort of the horror stuff near the end is quite horrific, especially for something from the 30s, which are normally very pathetic. There's a framing device in it, which is like at the start it sets something up, and then at the end it pays it off, and I think that's very clever. It's definitely a shame they cut those 30 minutes out, because there's some stuff which is like all off screen, which I would like to see more. And it's just historically, I mean, this is it's quite a big film historically. I would love to see what those missing minutes were. I want to see what this apparently most horrific horror film ever released it was like. But no, I'd recommend it. I give it 4 stars. I think it's just interesting to see more than anything, because I mean, shortly after this, there was lots of things you just couldn't put on film for censorship reasons. Now there's loads of stuff you can't put on film because it might offend people, and then they might lose business, and like, so studios want to play it safe. This is a unique moment where if they want to film something, they can just do it, and they did it, and it's unlike anything you would normally see. Even if you go into it just as a sort of modern sideshow, going in being like, let's look at some good freaks. Like I always grew up listening to Carl Pilkington's Cheeky Freak of the Week, and you know, it is interesting seeing people who aren't like you, but I think this is good to, like, it's not pointing and laughing, it's sort of appreciating them for who they are. They pretty much all play themselves. They some of their names are different, but they are generally playing fictionalized versions of themselves, and you get nice little moments with them actually. Whereas pretty much everyone in The Great Showman is an extra in that ensemble. You know what? I'm not sure, because I watched Great Showman, which I'd already seen before, and then this. But I feel like potentially if you watch it the other way around, maybe you'll think differently about the two films. You might come out of the experience differently. I think if I watched this and then watched Great Showman, I think I probably would be more negative towards Great Showman. But I don't know. So if this is the first review of mine that you saw, then I'd recommend you go and watch my Great Showman one. I want to do another double feature review in the future. I quite like doing this. I quite like, I've come up with a few sort of double features that I think would be really good to show in the cinema, and so maybe I'll do them as like a review thing. I'll try and place 2 films together which we can contrast. I think it's an interesting idea. So no, yeah, it's a pretty good film.